Well, hi, friends, and welcome to NC Family's weekly update. Jerry, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Well, the big story this week is that Governor Roy Cooper signed House Bill 347 into law at a big hoorah event in Charlotte on Wednesday. Of course, this is the bill that legalizes sports gambling and parimutuel wagering on horse racing across North Carolina. Unfortunately, as we have warned lawmakers about throughout this process, this bill is going to wreak havoc on a lot of individuals and families in our state. It's also going to invite corruption and foul play into collegiate and professional sporting events in North Carolina. And we have such a rich heritage of sports, especially collegiate sports here, that, it's really concerning to see how this legislation, as it is implemented, is going to change the face of sports in North Carolina as we have known it. And as we've told lawmakers, Jerry, the focus is going to change from being on the athletes and the sporting competitions to what are the odds, what are the lines, those types of things. So it's really heartbreaking and concerning, of course.
Yeah, and tragically, as we've seen this expansion, we all unfortunately had a sense that this would not be the end. Yeah. And I think we mentioned before, but quickly after this, we understood that more casinos and possibly video lottery terminals across the state are now being considered in addition to what's happened. And it's alarming, it's very troubling. Thankfully, we're hearing from some of the members that they're very troubled about this. And I think some of the ones maybe even who voted for the sports gambling are going, wait a minute, where are we going with all of this?
Yeah. The notion that, hold on, this is way too far, way too fast, I think is the sentiment of a lot of folks. And the sports gambling bill for a lot of folks was the same as well. So, we are working with and talking with lawmakers every day, and there are a lot of folks down there that are very concerned about not only the passage of the sports gambling, but the prospect of the legislature considering legislation that would legalize casinos and video lottery terminals, which would add just tens of thousands of more video gambling machines across the state. So, Jerry, we'll stay on top of that. Also on the sporting front, on a positive side, the Fairness in Women's Sports Act is on the move again in the legislature. This is the bill that would require athletic teams in middle school, high school, and at the college level to be designated as either male, female, or co-ed, and it would prohibit biological males from participating on women's or girls' sports teams. As you may recall, both the State House and the State Senate passed their own versions of this bill, but neither chamber until this week had taken up the other chamber's bill, which is necessary for this act to ultimately be enacted into law. So on Wednesday, the Senate Education Committee took up the House version of the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. They made some minor changes to it, which were good, and passed that bill. And then it passed the Senate Rules Committee yesterday on Thursday and should hit the Senate floor early next week. And so we're really encouraged by that. We had the opportunity to testify in favor of that legislation. Sylvia Hatchell, the former UNC women's basketball coach, again testified in favor of this legislation. So we're excited to see that moving forward.
Yeah, very encouraging. As I say, we have mixed news. We've troubled about some things, but here's some positive news.
Yeah. So, Jerry, what else? I mean, there are a number of other important issues that are hanging out there. What else is out there kind of on our radar screen?
Well, and I know we mentioned last week a number of bills that are still eligible that have been voted on by either the House or the Senate. A very important meeting has been announced for this coming Tuesday. Speaker Moore has said that within the House Republican caucus meeting, they are going to be voting on whether to move ahead with certain legislation. One of these is the gambling issue. And I know we have continued to ask you all, but we want to ask yet again, please stay in touch with your members of the House and the Senate on these bills, because in the case of the gambling, the numerous lobbyists are down there working on this additional expansion. And so members, they let us know when they hear from you. I mean, they tell us They're being encouraged. We all need encouragement, so please continue to be part of that. The other legislation that we've been following closely and working on that you have been helpful with as well is the marijuana as medicine. We understand this is going to be the time. Hopefully they're going to go ahead, move with a vote on it. At this point, we're encouraged to hear about the strong opposition, which again is in part thanks to you all. So please continue yet one more time. I mean, words that God gives us like perseverance, I'm having a new appreciation for, and I know we can grow weary and think, well, I've already done that. Yet we're continuing and encourage you to continue to work with us to stay in touch with legislators about that.
Yeah, and Jerry, I would just add to that that not only is it important that you communicate your interests and concerns to your legislators, but when you find that your legislators are and you have the same perspective, they need encouragement because they are getting tremendous pressure from individuals in both the House and the Senate to go along with positions that they may not agree with. And so the more they can get reinforcement and encouragement from especially constituents in their own districts, the more impact that can have. So they not only need to hear from you, but oftentimes they want to hear from you. And it's extremely helpful for them to be able to go into caucus and say, look, I'm hearing from my constituents, they don't want this. Or I'm hearing from my constituents and they want this. And so please, as Jerry said, we can't stress enough how important it is for you to continue to reach out and communicate with your lawmakers. Really easy to do that on the Action Center on our website, which will be linked below the video. There are a number of action items that you can take to reach out and easily contact your legislators either by email or by phone on these very important issues. Yeah. Jerry, you were going to say something else?
Yeah, and I'm a little hesitant to share this, but this is part of the reality. We're trying to encourage you that one way. I talked with a member recently and was asking them about their position, discussing it, and they were going to vote differently from what way we were encouraging them. And I, was wanting to ask them in a gracious way about what caused them to change their opinion. They said, people at home. Yeah. And so people at home convinced them to move in a way that I think is different from what they believed or where they were inclined. So I want to share that to say, again, how important your voice is, because as John said, we all need encouragement. Again, it's something God tells us to be encouragers. This is one more example of how God wants to work in each of our lives, and in this case, to encourage elected officials to do what's right in God's eyes, and that we would all continue to pray for God's wisdom and strength for legislators to do what's right.
And I would just add to that, too, don't take for granted just because they're elected officials that they know everything about everything. Right. That's why we're down there. We're working to educate these lawmakers about the implications and impacts of measures, bills that they're considering. And so don't assume that they know, all the information, all the facts about legislation. That's why constituents reaching out to them and contacting them is so important. We've got other issues out there like the Parents' Bill of Rights that we're hopeful is going to see some action soon, as well as a bill that would prohibit gender transition procedures and drugs being administered to minors in North Carolina, like puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and gender transition surgeries. So keep your eyes open in your email for updates about these issues, and also when we send out those action alerts and say, hey, now's the time to contact your legislator about this issue, and it may be members of both the House and the Senate, it may be members in just one chamber, please, please, please respond to those things, because as we have said, it makes a huge, huge difference. So, friends, thank you so much for your support, for your prayers, most importantly, and for your action. If we work together, we really, really can make a difference. So we're really grateful for your support and your engagement. So God bless you. Thank you, and we will see you next week.